Introverts, how did you meet your girlfriend? Story 1. At a garage sale. Well, technically my mom's garage sale. My father was a hoarder, but not of old newspapers or glass bottles or garbage. He hoarded consumer goods. Tools, CDs, home improvement stuff, camping gear, hunting and fishing stuff. The man had piles and piles of it stuffed into his home. Most of it pretty high quality, all bought on clearance. The old man was a sucker for a deal, even if he didn't have a use for it. After he passed away, it fell to us to figure out what to do with a stock of overstocked goods large enough to open a store. So we sold it at rock-bottom prices in the front yard. As is tradition, it was a miserably hot summer's day. My mom requested that I come over and help, because the house was on a well-trafficked street and the sheer volume of stuff meant there would be tons of people. She was right. There'd been a zillion people the day before, and though we'd sold a lot of stuff, there was much more yet to go. And today, I put an ad up on Craigslist. It was even busier. It was a long day of haggling with strangers, but at the end of the day, we'd sold 90% of the load, and we were just getting ready to close up and celebrate our success with pizza. Then this car pulls up, and out hops this gorgeous girl. She starts poking around in the CDs first, finds a couple she loves, then waves me over and starts asking about some she's unfamiliar with. I think she thought that since she'd found a few things she liked, the stuff she hadn't heard might be in the same vein, not knowing it was purchased indiscriminately from bargain bins all over town. I answer as best I can. I hadn't heard most of them, but I was able to steer her to a couple she might enjoy. We kept chatting, and I sort of showed her around in between helping other people who kept showing up. There was definitely an instant attraction and some really great conversation. She had to get going, so I made her a sweetheart deal on the stuff and helped her to her car. She got in, drove away, and then I realized I hadn't gotten her number. My brother and my neighbor had a fucking field day at my stupidity. But she told me where she worked, at a restaurant down the road, and she told me the days she was usually scheduled. So I did something very unusual for me and pursued it. Friday afternoons, I'd drive over from my office and ask to sit in her section. The food was terrible, but she'd stop and chat as long as it wasn't busy, and I caught her miring a few times. So on my third visit, I told her I'd love to see more of her and asked for her number. 10 years, a marriage, and a child, and we're still head over heels for each other. So I guess I owe my dad for the posthumous hookup. I think I'm the only person in history to get something at his own garage sale. Well, I think she's too smart. He forgot to ask for her number, so she tells him where he can see her again. It's not like that wasn't on purpose. Again, that's what I personally think. Story 2. I met a girl on the internet. Let's call her M. She was outgoing, social, very extroverted, and maybe a tad crazy. She came to visit me, about 7 hours drive away, and I awkwardly tried not to make an ass of myself. While visiting, she said, "Hey, a friend of mine from high school is in a city very nearby. We should go meet up with her for an afternoon. Let's call that friend K." K was nerdy, awkward, introverted, and I completely reevaluated what I wanted in a partner within the first 5 minutes of meeting her. K and I both slowly lost contact with M. And to this day, we aren't sure if she knows that we became a couple a few years later, or that we got married. Someday, we're going to run into her and it's going to be really funny. To be honest, it sounds like she was trying to set the two of them up. Story 3. I met her at a gaming club. I was playing Dungeons and Dragons. She was hanging out with a card game crowd. She caught my eye from afar, but being an introvert, I never went up to her. All my social energy was being spent on the Dungeons and Dragons. I had none left to leave my close friend group and greet someone new. If there's one hobby you can do while being solitary, it's writing, and that eventually led me to the National Novel Writing Month. I got to talk with some of the people on the local forums, and one of them turned out to be her. She invited me to a write-in with a bunch of locals. I didn't really want to go out, but now this girl I liked was directly inviting me out. I couldn't say no. We became writing buddies for the next couple of years and started hanging out outside of that. We spent many nights during her senior year of college hanging out at her apartment, watching various shows and writing together. Then she graduated and moved away, and we slowly lost contact. Flash forward 4 years. I'm still single and resigned to living single for the rest of my life. She pops up on Facebook again. We've been Facebook friends since before she moved away, but she rarely used the site. Now we're chatting, and soon the chatting moves to Skype. She's thinking about moving back into town and wants to know if I'd go around looking at apartments with her. She does the several-hour drive and we look at a few places, hang out for a while, then she goes home. A few weeks later, she tells me about this cool nearby theme park. She does the several of our driving. We hang out for a while, then she goes home. This goes on for a month or two, and I'm just the densest idiot that ever deserved to be an evolutionary dead end. Because I'm not realizing people don't just drive for hours to spend a little time with a friend. Finally, in the most adorable Skype message I've ever gotten, she asks me if the next time she comes down, it could, maybe, possibly, if I want it to, be a date. I told her I'm someone who enjoys happiness, so, of course, yes. That was 2 years ago. We're getting married in July, and we still laugh at how dense I was. I think that's the cutest story I read today. I hope everything goes well for him and his soon-to-be wife. Story 4. After months of spending less than 20 minutes sober, I drove myself to a hospital for detox. Finally got up to the unit at about 1 in the morning, where I proceeded to be given a bunch of drugs to help me sleep and reduce the chances of a seizure. Woke up the next day for breakfast in my scrubs, highly confused. And there she was. She had been in detox a full day before me, and this one allowed you to bring your own clothes, and so she was dressed in her sweats. For some odd reason, she saw me, barely aware, unshowered for 2 or 3 months, and thought he looks hot. I proceeded to spend the next 7 days in a locked unit, after which we both went to our separate treatments because detox was combined detox and counseling that specialized in getting people into treatment directly from the hospital. Only contact we had from then on was about 20 minutes total of phone time, but we wrote letters to each other every day. It's been almost 9 months now, and we had very dark parts of our relationship, where we both relapsed. But now we are both over 3 months sober. Focus on our individual recovery first. I couldn't be happier. I finally found my best friend who loves me for who I am and has helped me grow in so many areas. That was a very good story. It's everyone's dream to find the other part that will understand and accept every part of us, the good and the bad. Good for him, for finding the one, and congratulations on the sobriety. Story 5. She came over to me in a coffee shop while she was on vacation in my country to ask how to tip. We had a 2-hour conversation and then an amazing 5-hour lunch 2 days later. She complained about her hostel and I offered her my spare bedroom. She accepted. Nothing happened, although it seems crystal clear in retrospect that we were falling for each other. I didn't want to be an asshole and make her feel uncomfortable under my roof, so putting the moves on her was not something I seriously considered. 2 nights later, I had to be gone for most of the night on a work assignment, and I asked if she would please watch and walk my dog in my absence. I came home at 5 in the morning and was greeted by my suddenly very soft, very fluffy dog. She had somehow understood. Will you please wash my dog? And apparently didn't find that a strange request at all. The next evening, after we'd been talking over a bottle of wine for hours, it seems she had enough of my apparent indecisiveness, took the wine glass out of my hand, put it down, and leaned in for a kiss. That was 26 years ago. We've been married for 23 years now. Well, this is a story that put a smile on my face. Story 6. During my time in the Army, I was stationed at Fort Eustis, Virginia. On my way home for Christmas, I saw her sitting across from and slightly behind me. Honestly, I didn't pay much attention to her at first, but my buddy seated next to her did. After getting shot down repeatedly for a day and a half, he finally got off the bus. Shortly thereafter, she came over and sat next to me and we started talking. After that, we got split up because we put on different buses and I kicked myself for not getting her number. Then, when the bus stopped in St. Louis, there she was standing right there in the entrance, almost like she was waiting for me. If my bus had arrived 15 minutes later, I'd have never seen her again. Then I found out the bus to Denver was delayed due to snow and wasn't going anywhere for at least 2 days. She hurried over to the ticket counter and had my ticket changed to where she was going, so I wouldn't be trapped in St. Louis for 2 days. We spent the next 4 days getting to know each other. Then I continued home. We had a long-distance relationship for about 6 months until I came home permanently, by which time she had moved to Denver and rented an apartment. We got married 3 years later and have been together for 10 years total.